Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, Capital Markets Analyst and host of your Cannabis Business Podcast. Dan Chemist is here in person, as well as Ryan Porter. He is the founder and CEO of Toptender. It is a platform for bud tender education. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Nice to be here.
I feel like we're learning, Ryan. This is the thing, right? Is that, again, so like in your case, talk to us a little bit about Toptender and like how you learned what the market needed in order to make Toptender. How'd that come together?
Absolutely. Yeah. So Toptender, the story is I was actually working at a company that was big in the text message marketing space, helping retailers send Josh all those text messages that he thought he'd never respond to, but they actually turned out to be pretty successful, right? They got Josh in there. And so we started talking to brands about, marketing to consumers, and some really great brands said to us, hey, our big challenge is educating the bud tender. We've got a lot of bud tenders that represent our product, and getting them to understand and have the knowledge is our big problem. And I think, I completely didn't realize this. So when this edibles brand out of Colorado told me this, I was like, wow, you're completely right. So I started talking to some more people, heard that a couple more times throughout the brand side. And then I actually opened a retail store and I saw the same thing. I worked really hard to get products on the shelf, and I watched specifically on the joints. You guys will like this. We had a really great sales guy, and Dan would walk in and they'd say, oh, what do you want? And Dan's like, I want a joint. And he'd go for this $19 Sitka, leaf rolled joint. And the people loved to hear the story about it, but they weren't going to spend $19 that day. And then his sales pitch was done. He's like, well, what do you need? And I was like, man, I think I could train these guys better. And so I've been thinking about this tool for a while, and that was really the nail in the coffin, was to help people. It's a lot of products. Like, we're here in Washington. I'd say the average is about 700 to 1,000. I'm familiar with stores that have 1,800 unique products. That's a lot. Dan couldn't even sample all those.
I think Have a Heart has almost 2,500 products.
Jeez.
Oh, this is the thing, right? Is again, not to just stand here and validate the talking hedge, but what we find is that so much of the good information that you find in market is essentially harvested big data. So we're micro data, right? Yeah. We go into individual stores, individual experiences. I will say, for instance, this blunt, burning awesome. Now, you might have bought a blunt, same company, and it might not burn awesome for you. But our blunt from Be More Blunts is a top-notch rig. I dig it.
I really like it.
I like it a lot.
Well, let's just act like Dan was the sales guy about that joint, right? And he gave us a 10-second sales pitch. I heard him say something about Sonoma, and I don't know why, but I know some guys that are, that grow up in the Sonoma area. I think really highly of it. I would have bought because he said that.
Keywords. I dig it. Right. And awareness, right? Just keeping the awareness. So how does somebody engage with Toptender? How does somebody, do you subscribe? Do you come over to our house? How does that work?
Yeah. So for Toptender, it's free for bud tenders. They sign up right at toptender.com. And a lot of bud tenders get introduced to Toptender through their retailer. Their retailers are actually using it for training, onboarding, and product education. But your retailer does not have to use it. You can sign up for Toptender, build your profile, and start learning about all the great products. We have a number of brands that also have some gift packs and things like that. So that's there's some cool incentive. It's a little bit of a kind of VIP club if you want that perk of people recognizing that you're a bud tender and you're selling a lot of product. There's some freebies to be had in there.
It's so funny, in the field, one of the things we see is that the bud tenders are kind of treated as like, well, you're interchangeable. And yet they're the interface to the customer. And as somebody, so again, I've been in more dispensaries than most, right? And this whole thing of, look, in the end, it's the people. If you treat them interchangeably, The outcome is, for me, the customer, average experience, I might go up the street. You give me somebody awesome, I'm going to hang out. I'll be back, right?
Well, in the way I look at it, the thing I get really excited about as we think about like the future is, let's say like we're running a retail shop, and what if we just like, what if we don't have the good hash sales, and we're like, we know we're under the market. Well, I got to look at my team, identify if anyone has the knowledge, and if they don't, I got to hire that or train it.
Right. Infuse it. There we go.
Yeah.
It's funny. You know how ideas kind of form the state of the moment, right? And one of the ideas that's kind of founding now is, whoops, we missed on capital market predictions for the cannabis space. And oh my gosh, everybody retrench, right? And today it's kind of an inkling, right? It's just starting. But it seems to be building, right? That whole sense, the merger and acquisition and such. So, okay. So in a space like that, how does a Toptender position themselves to be M&A'd or to be, right, in a market where there's going to be a lot of bloodletting for small businesses? How do you deal with that stuff?
And I think it starts with offering a really good product that adds value to somebody at a low cost. So for instance, our retailer platform, it's free for retailers to use.
Okay.
I hope that I'm building a great tool that helps them build a great business. And then on the brand side, same thing. Brands can come on our platform and create as many courses and quizzes. Those quiz and surveys are hugely valuable. It gets them
data, and engagement, right?
Engagement. And I mean, I think people have to get pricing feedback at this point in the game.
Sure.
Especially as we build as people start to make some really awesome products like the Turp Diamonds. If a bud tender doesn't want to sell it at $80 per gram,
right.
The manufacturer needs to hear that. They need to understand they don't feel confident selling it at that price point.
Oh, the amount of energy, right, that goes into making something. You almost need to sell it first to know it'll sell, right? Hey, you could buy, right? Because without that data, the whole, how did we end up in Wisconsin, right? We shouldn't be here, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. Toptender. It's a year from now. What are we talking about?
Man, I don't know if I want to share that secret, but what we're talking about in a year from now is you and I, we can look at Toptender and we can figure out who those top bud tenders are in territories and in categories. I think that specialization from bud tenders, right? And no one's looking at this. I don't even think the best managers are looking at this.
Right.
They might say I got the A squad or the B squad or the D squad out there.
Right.
But when that one guy quits, I think it's important to understand how much net profit just walked out the door.
Right.
So I think in a year from now, there's going to be a lot more value on the bud tender. We're going to know what he brings to the table. He also, she is also going to want to have a little bit of documented about what investment's been made in them and how good they are. Because we're not just going to be hiring anybody next year. We're going to be hiring experts to fix the problems we have.
All that stuff. I mean, the value of that. So then ultimately, as you garner that value, because I would think if I'm a bud tender, I want those numbers. Is there a plan to leverage that value? That would seem to me to be very high value.
I mean, I think there's a lot of plans. It depends on where you sit. If you're the retailer,
right?
You want to grow them. I think, one thing we're seeing in this kind of next generation of building great cannabis businesses is people really recognizing that, their retail companies, their retail groups are operational teams with hundreds and thousands of people, and that they're only as good as their team. And so therefore, if it's the retailer, they start to think about the investment they're making in their people. If it's the brand, they also are thinking about the investment they're making. I don't know if you came across any PDAs or vendor days down in California, but
I did.
Those, I mean, they're packing them down there.
Right.
I see the calendars of some California brands. They're running a dozen a week that's a significant investment for them. So I think as they think about that investment, it's just one way that they really start to think about like the right investment. Who is it that I'm connecting with? How am I treating my retail partners?
Right.
It's an interesting change for our industry. The one thing I do when I speak to bud tenders in Los Angeles area, when I drop in there, is I always want to know how many shops they've worked at. I just, and then I want to get if they've worked at a couple, I want to know. I always ask them. I say, who invested in you more?
Right.
They don't necessarily always understand. I go, but hey, who trained you better?
Right.
And
right.
And then whether it's the current employer, the previous employer, I say, hey, isn't that really what matters? Is who trained you to be better so you can grow? And I think that's what you look for in these. If you're a bud tender, I think that's what you should look for.
Right.
You want to look for the retailer who has the best operations, who's building a great business. You want to go learn about that. Thanks for having me, guys. Sorry I didn't get to join in.
Yeah, right.
With that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is The Talking Hedge. By the way, if you enjoy the content, please show your support with the cushy gesture of $4.20 a month on the Talking Hedge's Patreon page. This will kind of help you spread the word. I've been asked to speak all over the world, from Toronto and Colombia, Spain, Miami, all over, Tokyo. But your support's important to me. I haven't monetized the podcast. I want to be as authentic and transparent as possible. I want to avoid conflicts of interest or even the perception of paid opinions. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or pay me on the Talking Hedges Patreon page, or don't, and I'm out.